Good. So with that in mind, and we have two people ready to go, Jeff Wall and Debbie Shad. Jenny?
I'm going to let Jeff take the lead on our presentation.
Okay.
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 We plan on presenting one of the projects that we presented about a year ago on doing some work on Forest Avenue property that we just purchased, 64 Forest Ave. It's about 4.427 acres, completely open vacant space. And we haven't done anything with it yet because we're working on another project. But what we plan on doing is creating access to the property. We need to do some wetlands crossings, which means creating boardwalks, doing some tree removal to make it safe. There were a number of trees down previously, and then the nor'easter that we had last October took a lot more trees down. So the tree work is going to be very expensive. And one of the new things that we plan on doing is creating a connection between this property and our bread and cheese property further down on Forest Avenue, which is 34 acres, through some town-owned land. And that would create a great open space connection for, there's woods, the great view of a pond, and just some open space. It was some trails for people to connect and walk through. We haven't figured out the total budget right now because we're working on seeing what some of these other things are going to be costing us, but we plan on going forward and making a presentation to you folks later on and coming before Springtown meeting.
There. For the newer members, we had discussed this for last year's Springtown meeting. And this was partnered with a really nice piece of property on King Street that offered not only conservation trails and expanding an area, it gave us watershed protection as well. We went ahead with that one. For reasons that I don't know, maybe some of the older members remember, but never too clear to me why we didn't go ahead and just do them both. But one of the members at the time decided that we should only do one, so we picked that one. This one is also, like Jeff said, it's going to connect some property, and it's something that we didn't find problems with before. I anticipate we probably won't find them now. So when you get a good grip on your numbers, Jeff, let us know. We'll probably start having regular meetings in 2, maybe 3 weeks.
Okay.
And this is going to be stuff that's going into the Springtown meeting. So, okay.
Jeff, could you just clarify for me a little bit the relationship between these two parcels of land physically? How are they adjacent to each other, or how do those work?
They're separated by about, I would say, 1/4 to 1/3 of a mile. The first one, the one that we're talking about now, is at 64 Forest Avenue. It's across from
Cedar Acres.
Cedar Acres Lane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our other property, which we purchased a number of years ago from the White family, 34 acres of land, is behind Fox Run.
So would they link together, or they're just close together?
They're close together, and the way we would connect them is there's some town-owned land that's between them.
Okay.
That's behind the RTF that nobody really knows anything about, but it's a great piece of open space forested land. It's old farmland with some stone walls. There's a little bit of wetlands there also, but it makes some great hiking area.
Great. Thank you.
Sorry, Jeff.
No, we're all set.
Is that okay? Mary Ann, do you have any questions for Jeff at this point? You're muted.
I think he identified that it was a bit remarkable because of the wetlands and there was a connector between it. But would there be additional walking trails placed through it, or
Yes.
what would be great for school children, I suppose?
It's, we haven't placed any trails on either of these properties yet. But we have Boy Scouts and also some National Honor Society students working on it to map out some walking trails. And there's also a vernal pool there that's been designated as, I think, as a potential vernal pool. It hasn't been certified yet. So it makes a great learning experience. We're planning on putting a kiosk at the entrance to the property on Forest Avenue to give some guidance and show where the trails are. I can't hear you. It's,
Enter near Cedar Acres, the street.
yes, yep.
Where the entrance would be, and would there parking be there? I'm just curious.
No, there's parking in various places along Forest Avenue,
Mhm.
but there is no designated parking specifically at this location.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, Jean, any questions for Jeff or Debbie?
At this point, no, thank you for the presentation. Looking forward to hearing more, including about the cost that this will ultimately take on. I do think Mary Ann had a very good question about parking, because Forest Ave is a pretty fast road. And so ensuring that people who do use it are safely using it, I think will be important. And so I think that might be something worth considering further.
Okay, Jenny.
Yes, thank you, Russ. The Housing Authority is going to put in 2 proposals this year.
No, this is on Jeff. This is a question. We're still talking with Jeff on the land.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. No,
Yeah,
I
you're
don't,
good.
and that's, no,
Okay. Okay,
that's fine.
Thomas. No? Michael?
I'm good, Russ. Sounds like
Okay.
a really good project, and hopefully we can iron out all the wrinkles and maybe be able to help.
Okay, Paul.
No, from what I'm hearing about it, sounds like a really nice project, and I'm looking forward to seeing it move ahead.
Okay, great. Susie? You're muted.
There we go.
There
No,
you
I
go.
don't have any questions. I remember its presentation last year.
Mhm.
And I'm looking forward to more details on it. Sounds good.
Okay, all right, great. Debbie, Jeff, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time. See you tomorrow walking the dog. Deb? We're still in the market for a new one, but we're getting closer.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right, thank you. Goodbye. Good night.
Yeah, have a good evening. Jenny, and where's Taffy? Taffy Knocknagel from the Housing Authority have a couple things that may be of interest to them, and would be nice if we can help them out in any way we can. They do good work. So anyway, after that, it's all yours. Who wants to go
Okay.
first, Jenny or Taffy?
I'll do it tonight, thanks.
Okay.
We have 2 projects in mind. One is approximately $15,000 to re-roof the community building, which has been worked on quite extensively this past year. The Social Service League gave us a new kitchen. We have a refurbished laundromat. The main room has new carpeting, thanks to the Social Service League, and we've revamped the office for our excellent director. But it does need a new roof. And the second proposal is to add $100,000 to the $200,000 that have already been allocated by the CPC to our doors and window frames, exterior doors and window frames on the 64 apartments. And the DHCD will be also contributing heavily to this project in the form of supporting that effort and also the new decks for most of the second floor apartments.
Mhm.
And the current estimate for that has climbed, which is the reason we're coming back to
Gonna
about
say-
775,000 minimum. So,
Yeah. Metal prices have run through the
Yeah.
roof. One of the companies we rep for will only on steel doors will only quote for 30 days, which is you might as well not quote because by that time they don't have time to get the work going. But okay, we've done a lot of work with the housing authority, and hopefully continue. We in the future we will as well. Mary Ann, do you have any questions for Jenny or Taffy at this time?
I guess it may seem.
can't hear,
Can
sorry.
you give me the exact address of that housing authority? I think I know where it is. It's behind the fire.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's at
Correct,
60
on
Elm
Elm
Street.
Okay.
It's right behind, I'm sorry, it's right
Fire
behind
and
the
police.
police and fire station. You drive up the
That's what I
drive
thought.
and there are 16 buildings, a community building, and 2 houses for the severely disabled.
The community building is immediately on the left as you get up there in the parking lot, right?
Mhm.
Yes,
And then the other one that she's talking about, Mary Ann, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny, is the replacement for the Tredice house.
yes, that was
Which is
completed.
Right
this
next
past
to the
year.
fire station, there's a Cape house there that has severely handicapped people. It's a
It's
it,
behind it.
it benefits the town a lot for its 40B requirements because each individual counts as a unit. I've always been kind of mixed on it because it's sort of, kind of crossing our fingers. I'd like to see separate units of affordable housing, not one building that's got a half a dozen people and counts as 6, but that's just me. Jean, anything for Jenny or Taffy at this point?
Just a probably stupid question. I assume that the money is to redo all the doors and window frames throughout.
The exterior.
Okay.
Each apartment has either a patio or a balcony, and those are the doors with sidelight windows, and those are the doors and frames that the CPC would be helping to. The state will pick up the costs of that, of some of that, plus new decks that have to be redone.
Yeah, those are in pretty tough shape. I
Yeah,
went over
they are.
there with Taffy and Ginny back in the fall, I think it was. I don't know, COVID's kind of made everything a blur the last couple of years. But anybody who wants to go there, I'm sure they'd be glad to give you a tour of it. And you can
Sure.
see that it is really work that needs to be done. Susie?
So all you're asking for is another $100,000 for this project?
Well, you've already allocated 200,000, but since
Okay.
the costs have gone up so much, we're coming back for another 300, which would be, maybe 40% of the cost of the project or less.
That sounds perfectly reasonable to me. I have no problem with it.
Okay. Tom?
I was just trying to get clarification on the numbers. So it's 100 that you want added to the 200 toward a $700,000 total.
Well, it's, right now, it's closer to 800,000.
Okay, and the remainder of that money comes from the state?
Yes, DHCD, Department of Housing and Community Development.
Thank you. Okay, great.
All set, Tom?
Thank you.
Okay, Michael? You're muted.
Yeah, it always takes me a little while to move the cursor. on the unmute button. Sorry about that.
That's
Um,
okay.
I mean, I I have no issues. Obviously, going to have to see the full submission and
Oh,
that
yeah.
sort of thing. As you know, Russ, I think you probably share my feeling is it'd be great if, in addition to kind of fixing up the units we already have, we actually add to the affordable housing stock in this town. Certainly is needed, frankly, at least in my view.
You
Yeah.
know, it's unfortunately, places like 60 Elm Street really have not been built in any numbers at all since the 1970s. So we feel it's very important to preserve what we have, which is,
I agree.
and yes, and I agree with you too. We do need to add where we can.
Yeah. All right, Paul, any questions at this point?
I'm sorry, I just shut my bloody camera off.
That's okay. We missed your face for a second.
Now, I know a person lived up there and yeah, it looks like it needs some attention. Now the balconies, because Russ, I'm a little confused. The balconies made out of metal up there or wood?
No, they're wood,
Yeah.
really. Yeah. And they're well made and they have metal, very sturdy metal rails on them, but they're pretty worn at this point. Certainly the decks of them are.
Okay,
Um,
because so you need the
yeah.
decks wooden, you need
Well-
you need it reconstructed around the decks, you need it supported. You
This
don't
is
need
what,
metal railing, right?
well, this is what the state engineers are telling us that come down from DHCD.
Okay,
The details of it, I'm not sure, but certainly they'll be replacing the wooden parts. They may reuse the rails that they have. They're perfectly good, so.
no, I'm
it
not
may-
against any of it. I was just getting some clarification. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that's all we're at this point. We're really just making sure we cover whatever they may need and any questions that might come up, try to make it smoother once they come through. I think it might not be a bad idea if we take advantage of doing another tour and running through the building so we can see it for ourselves again. Okay.
You're welcome to tour my apartment. I have a deck.
Oh, okay. Okay.
No,
Taffy, do you have anything? You
I
want
don't
to-
know.
oh,
Hear me?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? I'm having problems with my sound with my computer.
I can hear you.
Okay. No, I think Ginny did a good presentation. It's basically the rotting around the frames and infiltrating the building. And so the frames of these doors, which are stacked one above the other, and the doors need to be replaced. It's a big project.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it
Has
is.
64 different units.
Okay.
could I just add something?
Sure.
We have a very diligent and excellent manager now, and she's taken on multiple projects and doing a wonderful job trying to bring the buildings up to where they should be. So
Well, we're glad to do whatever we can to help you. Speaking of affordable housing, I was talking to a couple people on the housing trust, and they will probably be coming in for money again, so that we can boost what they've got available. And the reason why we've been putting money into the housing trust is for the flexibility that it offers us. If CPC does a project, we have to get it approved at town meeting. If we give them the money and there's an agreement that spells out what they can and what they can't do. Say town meeting was in May, and the weekend after town meeting, a really nice piece of property came on the market. CPC couldn't get involved until the next year. And in this real estate market, even in a bad one, it's not going to last that long. So by having the money in their hands, they're able to act, negotiate a purchase and sales agreement, and get some affordable housing going. I haven't heard anything on the old white elephant in West Corner, but I assume we'll probably be hearing something about that piece of property before long. So it would be nice to get a few small units of properties, affordable housing scattered throughout town, rather than having it concentrated just in one area, if for no other reason in my mind, so that people get, a lot of times people think of affordable housing and they think they're going to get, you know, somebody with a biker boyfriend who's cooking meth in the bathroom, and it's hardly the case. And I think the more we can get involved in them and the more they're scattered throughout the town, the more acceptable they're going to be. And it's really something we need to do. And we got a lot of bucks right now. So anyway, has anyone else heard of any kind of a project that might come up? Jenny, no?
Russ, I was just going to say, has anybody ever looked at the slice of land where the old St. Anthony's Church was? It's now woods,
Yeah.
but there was a church on there, and I always wondered if I know it backs up to some wetlands, but wonder if anyone's ever looked at that.
That would be something that, because you know, we don't buy land, we buy restrictions on the land. So you'd have to have, oh, Jeff would be a good one to run that by. That might be a tough one because it doesn't really add to anything. You know, it doesn't connect to other pieces of property. I don't know that it would give even protection under a watershed issue.
I was thinking of housing.
Of
for that.
housing? How
Yeah.
big? Well, yeah.
Pretty well.
I would bring that up to Chris.
We could also buy half of St. Anthony Rectory lawn
Yeah,
and put something in there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just wonder.
yeah. Gene, you had your hand up?
Yeah, right now it's used, there's a trail behind it and there are stations at the cross. It's
Oh, okay.
used as like a prayer / peace area. I will say, having gone through it multiple times, it's pretty wet back there.
Is it? Okay.
Really, really wet. And so it might be tricky from a housing development standpoint. But for what it's worth.
Yeah, it's worth pursuing. I mean, to be honest with you, I know where it is, but that
You don't
was
really see it.
before-
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was way before I got here.
Well, there was a big church on there, so I'm assuming that at least the ground that the church was on wasn't wet. But anyway,
Yeah.
just a thought.
Well, it may have been, depending when it was built. Wetlands, you know.
Yeah.
You look at the ditch on Parker Ave or any marsh you go to, you couldn't get away with doing that now. You know, slicing them up to drain them off like that. But oh well, you live, you learn. Mary Ann, you have any Paul?
The
I'm
open
not
space-
Not
just-
Mary Ann first. Sorry.
The Open Space and Recreation Committee was very much interested in rehabilitating the tennis courts. And so this is an area that we're putting a little more interest in. I think we're about a year out from accomplishing that and getting our ducks in order, but this is an area where we feel that needs serious attention. And we would probably go before CPC for additional support once we get everything together and end in order.
It's come before us and then got withdrawn and then come back and got withdrawn. You know, where it's town property, it has to go through the town manager first. But we've approved various iterations of it at quite a few points in the game. So it's just, I would think, a matter of, you know, the town deciding if it fits into any capital plans. And Gene, you may have some information on that.
Yeah, just to give a little background on that, last year, there was a tennis court study. It was originally a tennis court study, and then it got expanded to be a field study, which includes fields, tennis, and other recreational needs throughout the town. And town meeting passed it last spring for $60,000. And so the town has hired a consultant who is now outlining all of our open recreational space, looking at potential new parcels for recreational space as well. trying to figure out what the exact demand is. Certainly there's one for tennis, and I think there's an acknowledged need, as Marianne was saying, to rehabilitate the tennis courts. And so I do think that there's going to be some sizable requests coming out of that study, which is trending towards probably, hopefully nearing some sort of initial options in early March in anticipation of town meeting. And, you know, I don't think everything will be ready by then, so to speak. I think there's probably going to be a lot more discussion needed on all fronts. But just as a heads up, this is an overall look at the entire town. There's going to be a town-wide survey that's going to go out hopefully next week to suss out all the different recreational needs and how the town is meeting them or not. And so I do think that that's going to spur a lot of interest and demand, including on the recreational side, and that we will likely be looking to CPC to help support that, depending on what form it takes, including new land.
Do you have a sense of the timetable of which, of when that might be ready for a CPC discussion?
That's a good question, Tom. You know, I wish it was going to be earlier than March, which I know is getting us close to Springtown meeting. I think I'm just not sure. So the good news is right now the consultants have essentially vetted all the parcels of land that we own in terms of mapping out, engineering, et cetera. Now we're trying to get the data from, and we have some of it, but we're trying to get more, including from the big sports leagues, as well as the citizens generally who have needs beyond just, you know, there's not really a sports league for adults playing tennis, right? And so we need to gather that information to figure out sort of the citizens' demand in a more structured way to help figure out exactly what we need and maybe what we don't. So that process hopefully will be done by the beginning of March, including, again, some initial proposals by our consultants who already have a pretty good sense of all the land and the potential options, including, depending on what the need is, how to restructure things within a field space. I think maybe the bigger question from a CPC standpoint is going to be if we feel the need to buy a new parcel of land somewhere, how much that is and where that is. I don't think that will at all be ready for spring meeting.
I can't hear you, Marianne.
Just from our initial discussion within conservation, or rather from open space, rather, that's another group. Open space, there's a demand for pickleball for adults, and that's been a sport that's picked up quite a lot. So we need to have space for that in addition to tennis courts. The tennis courts, only 2 tennis courts were developed 60 years ago, and there were also lights that we've learned that did exist there, a lighting system, but it was cut in the 1980s due to Proposition 2.5. So I think there's an enormous job in that, just looking at just tennis courts and then expanding it to pickleball to address the needs of the public. So it's going to take some time before this goes even before the CPC. I think it's at least a year.
Michael, any questions?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, Susie?
No, I don't have any questions.
All right, Paul,
No, I have no questions.
Tom, you all set? Okay,
Yes.
all right. Well, you know, keep plugging at it, and hopefully it'll be ready soon. I have no other items that have come up. I got a call from, or an email from Glenn Pratt today. Historical Society wants to digitize their collection, but that's a couple years down the road. And what we're hearing now is stuff that's going to be for the annual town meeting. So I told them to wait and come back then. I'm sure we'll get some others, but we should schedule another meeting so at least we can work out making sure, Jean?
Hey Russ, I'm sorry to interrupt, but for our next meeting, I wonder, is it all possible to get an update from people who have substantial balances? I appreciate that Ginny, for example, came on and was talking about the plans of the housing authority to sort of work through the money they had and didn't have, in part because I raised this in the background. We have the huge town hall project.
Mhm.
And I understand that in light of the costs that everyone is facing with supplies and inflation, that is something that I think the town hall committee is grappling with. And so I am interested in seeing where, in light of that, which I think, I'm not sure of the timeline there, to be candid. They're coming before the select board tomorrow, so maybe we'll know a little more for the next meeting.
Yeah,
But-
I was hoping they would be here tonight to give us an update. I talked with Phil, but evidently not.
Yeah, but there are some other big projects in the wings, and it would be good to know, where the trajectory of that money is, like the swim center. I've gotten some questions about how that project is coming along and where the money is. Obviously, the swim center is a very popular asset within our town. And so it would be great to hear from some of those groups too, in addition to, those who
Yeah,
have.
I'll talk to Don and to Chris and see if they want to take that on and contact the different groups. I don't know how we would go about taking money back on a project other than having to go through town meeting, which could be kind of tough if it ever came down to that. But once we've approved them, Michelle or Chris handle it from there. But I'll talk to Chris, see what he can do for us.
Yeah, I guess the question is whether I think they're gonna need more money, right, in light of the supply issue, with things costing more and construction costing more. And I
Yep.
don't mean for the small projects, I mean for the really big ones, right? Like the swim center where, that's a sizable amount of money that's sitting out there. And it would be good to know if we're gonna be getting, more requests. in
The
light of-
request from them to increase it.
Well, construction costs are increasing for everyone.
No, I understand that, but in a sense, that's what we would be discussing with the housing authority.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
So yeah, I'll ask them if they can give us a update on it. And as far as I know, that they've been pretty much keeping to the schedule that they had laid out. When we approved them, we knew that there was going to be a multi-year deal where they were going to be raising money in order to get us to release money. So we've been keeping an eye on that way. I mean, I haven't had any questions about it at all, but unfortunately, I don't get all the questions asked. Okay, anyone else? I'd like to set a meeting. I was going to say for 2 weeks from tonight, but that's Valentine's night. I value my life, so how about 3 weeks from tonight?
Sure.
Okay. That way, at least we can see if there's anything else. If there's not, we'll bail out. I try to be very mindful of the fact that everybody on this committee is on another committee, and you're already volunteering a lot of time. So I try not to impose on top of it. So
Hey,
we'll go for
Russ,
3 weeks. Uh-huh.
Russ, I
Yes.
think 3 weeks is President's Day. Is that
Ah,
a problem?
okay. Well, why don't we just, I mean, at this point, even if we set it, we have nothing that's coming up. Why don't we tentatively just say the 28th of February? And if we need to do something quicker, provided it works with enough people to get a quorum, we don't have to meet on Mondays, and we can set another one. I think everyone's always been pretty flexible on them. So why don't we tentatively say the 28th of February? Does that work? Okay. All right. Well, is there anybody else, Justine, from the public that wants to ask questions or anything?
I don't see anything at this time, no.
Okay. Any comments from any of the members? This is my favorite part of any meeting. Can I get a motion? Oh, Susie?
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
Ah, God love you. I was going to ask for that. Second, all in
Second.
favor, better say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate
Thanks,
your
Russ.
time. Have a good
Night,
day.
everybody.
You
Good
too.
evening.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks. Thank you, Justine.